Thank you, everybody, and welcome to the conference this afternoon. I just apologise in advance. I have a bit of a tickle, so I might have to take a break now and again for a drop of water, so bear with me. I begin, I suppose I'll just give you the background on Nunso Hardy. Some of you probably know who we are and some don't. We're a privately owned Irish forestry company specialising in the growing and supplying of first-class forestry plants for the Irish forestry market. Our nurseries are based in County Wexford. We have about 530 acres spread over 2 bases. And then our company base is in Shillelagh, County Wicklow, where all the administration and distribution is done. We employ more than 80 hard-working people to provide plants for all the afforestation schemes right through from all the GPCs. So that's basically that. I suppose everybody here today really has an idea of what the Native Woodland Scheme is about. It is there to protect, enhance and expand Ireland's native woodland resource and its associated biodiversity. Once covering most of the island of Ireland, surviving fragments of native woodland are still left. And the Native Woodland aims at encouraging the proactive protection and expansion of Ireland's native woodland resource, whilst using appropriate close-to-nature silviculture. The Native Woodland Scheme has the potential to significantly reverse the decline of Ireland's native woodlands and to secure a healthy, vibrant resource for future generations. Just to focus in on the scheme then, I suppose the most important species from our point of view for the scheme is oak, as it's basically the basis of all new establishment projects. Tomnafinnog Wood is the last surviving remnant of the famous Shillelagh Woods in southern County Wicklow, and it's quite close to our nursery base. So in September 2006, we surveyed and located approximately 100 potentially good seed-producing trees based on crown spread and area. The objective is to have an annual collection of acorns. So we now observe these trees every August to project the likely crop for the autumn. This collecting of native acorns is now a very important part of our annual programme, because this collection forms the basis of our native oak supply, and we need to maximise it every year to ensure a constant supply of native oak seedlings. We have also spread out now and have earmarked other sites in Collatin, which is in County Wicklow as well, and Bunclody and Wexford. And also in recent years, we have contracted collectors in Clare and Galway to try and maximise our collections. So there's some of the species which are native to Ireland, which we actually do try and collect, as they are used in most of the establishment projects. You have the birches, silver birch and downy birch, bird cherry, blackthorn, hawthorn, hazel, holly, pedunculate oak, Scots Pine, sessile oak, and wild cherry. So the question we asked ourselves of why did we take part in the Native Woodland Scheme? The Native Woodland Scheme is of increasing importance to the future of the Forestry Programme, which we are basically supplying. We believe that this template can be used to increase tree planting in restricted areas and can also be used to increase the percentage of broadleaves that are being planted, which is a major issue at the moment. We need to get our levels of broadleaves up, so the Native Woodland Scheme is the ideal tool to get this. Like, we can plant native woodlands as buffer zones around water catchment areas, and these, as was pointed out earlier, these plantations can be managed as mixed age rotations, which in turn would have improved benefits for water quality. So this would also allow more predictive forestry to be planted in conjunction with these buffer zones. So we could also use Scots Pine in these areas, which can be very beneficial in terms of flood mitigation. As I said earlier, our seed is mostly collected in Tomnafinnog, and Tomnafinnog comprises of about 66 hectares of mixed native woodland, dominated by mature single-stem sessile oak. We also have some good hawthorn sites around Collatin, County Wicklow, Our rowan and cherry collection is mainly around Clonegall, County Carlow. We also collect oak, hazel, Gelder rose and spindle in County Clare. So originally when we began the process, our main aim, as outlined above, was to collect acorns, as acorns was the basis of the native woodland scheme. So apart from the collection of acorns now, we also collect other seed which are included in the scheme. As I said, rowan, hazel, blackthorn, crabapple. And our Scots Pine, we don't collect it. We buy the seed from the National Seed Centre in Ballintemple. As conifer seed is a lot smaller, it requires more specialised equipment for extraction and stratification. So we've had good results from the seed being supplied from the centre, and because it is also seed orchard material, it'll produce a very productive crop of timber. We'll just run through when we do our seed collections. Our seed is gathered during the weeks of August, September and October. Cherry would be the first one we start to collect, which is early August. We then move on to rowan, which comes in late August. Hazel, blackthorn and crabapple would be September, and then the last two then would be oak and hawthorn, which would start in October and run into November. The basis of our seed, we sort of use a lot of nets, which we place the nets below the trees when we have identified where we're going to collect our seed. And we also have to use hand picking where we can't get in with the nets. So it can be difficult to put down nets in some areas, so we have to be able to pick the seed from the ground directly just to maximise our collection. So we found by experience that having our nets in place early is a key factor in increasing our collection. It is vital that we have the nets in place before the seed begins to fall. Also, we have increased our number of pickers who are all kept busy during this period. Some species like hawthorn and rowan are picked straight from the tree. This is usually a race against the bird life to see who gets the berries. Rowan ripens from mid-August, and usually we would aim to collect maybe 500 to 600 kgs of berries, which should give us about 300,000 to 400,000 plants fit for sale. And these would be used in both the native woodland scheme and the afforestation scheme. So what happens to the seed once it's collected? The seed is brought back to our basin shillel where it's let dry. This involves spreading it out on a clean, rodent-free floor in the shed. And once the seed is ready, it is sent to our nursery in Ballymorn to be sown. The seed of the fruit-bearing species like whitethorn, blackthorn, rowan, etc. are all picked by hand, and they are brought to our sheds for processing. The first stage for these species is to remove the fleshy part to expose the seed and allow it to be cleaned. The cleaning process varies from species to species. For example, cherry, this process is carried out straight away, whilst whitethorn, we allow the flesh to decay a little before we start to process it. So I suppose just moving on then to the challenges that are faced day to day collecting seed. The main challenge is the continuity of the supply of acorns. Mast years in Ireland are very sporadic and vary greatly from year to year, as you can see from the table. To enable the maximum collection of acorns from Irish oak, the trees are surveyed from the end of August to check for acorns. This usually involves just walking through the woods with binoculars and looking for small undeveloped acorns up in the branches. This can be quite difficult as the branches are very high up, and it's not until the acorns swell up to the beginning of September that we have any indication of that year's potential. As the seed cannot be stored, everything we collect in the season has to be sown that season. So the main obstacles, I suppose, are put into three categories, I suppose. First one is access to the seed. Most of the places where we collect are not actually maintained as seed collection points. They're just woodland. So you have to make what's best available to you. Undergrowth in the wood is a huge problem. So when we're putting our nets down, we have to pick and choose where we can put the nets. And also then we would have a team of pickers who would just travel around and pick just from the ground. Also, wild animals predation. There's a competition there to see who gets there first. Deer, squirrels, pheasants, etc. are very fond of some of the seed. So we have to, over the years we've seen that visiting the sites more frequently and taking the seed that has fallen maybe once a day or 3-4 times a week, there's no point in going once a week and going to pick up your nets because your nets will invariably be empty. So obviously this increases the cost of collecting as pickers must move from site to site, often several times a day. So this can lead to a lot of downtime. The third one then is predicting the demand for the plants. Over the years, the demand for the native woodland scheme has been inconsistent. So you just don't know what level of production you will be needed from one year to the next. And as you're growing the plants, you have to look 2, maybe 3 years into the future to see what the demand is going to be. So it's very hard to get that one down at fine art. In the recent programme, the 2014 to 2020, the Forest Service have projected targets for native woodland of approximately 450 hectares per annum. But this does not break down into what species is needed or what percentage of each species is needed. So it really is crystal ball stuff. So we do try our best, but invariably there will be gaps in supply, and we have to sort of look at ways around that maybe. So I suppose looking into the future again, our aim is to provide customers with a 2-year-old Irish oak plant between 50 to 80 centimetres tall. As opposed to the last few years, we have been relying on 30 to 50 centimetre 1-year-old plants because the demand for these plants has just been way ahead of the supply. These plants were necessary as demand dictated that we had to sell everything each year to keep the programme going. This has a knock-on effect for everybody, and it does prove and make establishment a bit more difficult with smaller plants. But we are committed to supplying plants to underpin the future of the native woodland scheme. In partnership with Teagasc, we have also established an indoor seed orchard for birch, which we see huge potential with this species, as it can be now sown with a view to producing a final crop, which would significantly improve the commercial value of native woodlands. So that's just a little bit of background on the seed orchard. In 2014, Teagasc had reached a stage in their birch improvement programme where there was material suitable for commercial exploitation. We, with the guidance of Teagasc and the support of the Department of Agriculture, Food and Marine, we set up a seed orchard in our nursery in Ballymurn. It was constructed a new purpose-built high-sided polytunnel to house the birch plant material, which was supplied to us by Teagasc. The seed orchard has been established as I say, in the tunnel that was constructed by the local company D Plant Horticulture, as birch is more suitable to indoor seed production, as it gives more control over issues such as cross-contamination from outdoor sources of pollen. The artificial environment can also be manipulated to increase flowering and hence increase the quantity of seed. Our orchard consists of 90 individual clones, which is replicated 3 times. The clones are planted in 50-litre pots and are irrigated through a drip feed irrigation system. They are laid out in a randomised design, and currently the plants are at 1 by 1.8 metre spacing, but this will be increased as the plants get older. Another species where we see potential in is the increased use of Scots Pine. As you know, Scots Pine is our only native Irish conifer, but it also has commercial value as a forest tree. Apart from possibly alder and birch, it is also the most adaptable of all the native species. It grows well in a wide variety of soils, and it shows potential on low nutrient sites, including cut-over midland bogs. As a native woodland species, Scots Pine produces a higher yield than most native broadleaves. Yield class 14 can be achieved, but more realistically it's 6 to 10. Scots Pine is referred to in the timber trade as red deal, and it's very suitable for a wide range of internal high-value end uses, which include furniture, joinery and staircases. Externally, it is ideal for fencing posts, gates and transmission poles. Low-value uses include wood chips and sawdust. Although the market in Ireland is limited for Scots Pine, it is strong throughout Europe, where it is widely used. So despite its marginalisation as a forestry up until recently, Scots Pine is an integral part of the Irish landscape and worth reappraisal, especially as part of the Native Woodland Scheme. It is worth remembering that Scots, along with the oak, have a proven track record as a forestry tree with commercial potential. So that's it from me. Thank you very much for listening, and apologies about the breakdown.